Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Glenn Johnson Show. This is Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, Motivations with Glenn and Massena. Massena might be joining us shortly. She's in the middle of taking care of some of my responsibilities. And hopefully, I have my former co host, Ms. Tamila Wiggins. She'll be calling in to offer some comments. Today's topic is Back to School 2022. So, this is an interactive broadcast for today. I would appreciate it so very much if our listeners, if you're a parent or even a student, but if you're a student and under the age of 18, you have to be near an adult to monitor your what you're going to say on the air. But I invite you to call in because we want to hear from you, the real people of the community, the mothers, the fathers, and the students. But if you're a student, like I said, and you're under the age of 18, please be accompanied by an adult if you call in and offer a comment. The number to call is 252 756 2008. To begin with the broadcast, know before you go back to school, whether in the classroom, playground, or hallways at school, COVID 19 vaccines and boosters protect you from severe illness, hospitalization, and death. And I find out it's so very true. That document is issued by the Department of Health and Human Services here in the state of North Carolina. So know before you go. If you need that document to read further, it's available in English and Spanish. If you need it, please don't hesitate to email me at Glenn Johnson Show at I'm sorry, Glenn Johnson Show at gmail.com. That's Glenn with two N's, Johnson Show at gmail.com. I want to hear from some parents, mothers, fathers, and some students. So please give me a call at 252 756 2008. One thing I'll say about this topic, back to school, and I really applaud all of the faculty, the teachers, the administrators of school systems here in Pitt County, Greenville, Winterville, Aden, Grifton, and all the other different communities. Because if we can move away from the classrooms being virtual and back to face student and teacher interactive, I think that would be awesome for our children. And one of the reasons why I think that it would be is because I met my grandson's first grade teacher a couple of days ago that actually lives in my neighborhood. And I didn't want to wear it, but she saw my car and saw the awesome radio sign on it with my name and recognized who I was and stopped to talk to me. And she indicated to me how great and fabulous my grandson was in school, academically and socially. So I think that's why I think our students should be back face to face, having that interaction, physically or not physically, but socially with their teachers and faculty. So that's one of my reasons. Everyone ages 6 months and older can get a safe and effective COVID-19 vaccine. Staying up to date on vaccinations and boosters help kids stay protected and in school. Treatments for COVID-19 are available, but must be started right away. Talk to your doctor as soon as you feel sick or visit myspotnc.gov/find treatment. That information is also available, like I said, through the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. If you have a computer and internet access, or go to your local library if it's open, we can gain access to the internet and you can review some of these documents, or simply just email me. I'll be more than happy to forward them to you. As I'm still waiting for people to call in, I want to remind everybody, just give me a call. This is an interactive broadcast today. So please call 252 756 2008 while we have 5 minutes remaining for this first segment. Please give me a call. What are some of the other elements? How about back to school safety, transportation safety, walking to school safety, even if you're riding a bicycle safety, riding a bus? There's a lot of different safety factors to consider. So what are some of the transportation safety factors? Whether your child walk, ride their bicycle, or take the bus to school, it is extremely important that they take proper safety precautions. And just here are some, or just a few of the safety tips that they are talking about. Walk on the side of the road if one is available. When a street, I'm sorry, when a street with no sidewalk, walk facing the traffic. That is very important. So walk on the sidewalk if one is available. When on the street with no sidewalk, walk facing the traffic because you want to see what's coming toward you. And I think that's why they have that mention that before you cross the street, stop and look left and right, left again, and see if cars are coming. Everybody should know that by now if you're school age. Get to a street, crossing the street, stop, look left and right, left again to see if cars are approaching. That's so very important. You want to protect yourself at all costs. Here's another one. Make eye contact with drivers before crossing the street. Always cross streets at crosswalks or intersections. I'll say that one more time. Make eye contact with drivers before crossing and always cross streets at crosswalks or intersections. So very important because you want to make sure that you're in compliance in the event something should happen. They know that you are doing what you were supposed to do. 2 minutes remaining as I'm still waiting for calls. Here's one more that I'll mention. Stay alert and avoid distracted walking. Stay alert and avoid distracted walking. Well, you might say, how can I stay alert and avoid distracted walking? What is distracted walking? You might be paying attention to something unrelative to walking and being safe. Perhaps you're looking at your cell phone, looking at a picture, or texting somebody. That's distracted. That's a distraction. You're not paying attention to where you're going and what's coming towards you. That's distracting. So always maintain vigilance. Stay focused. Don't let nothing distract you from moving from one place to another. Because in 2 seconds, a catastrophe could happen. So you might say, well, I'll just turn my head for a minute or two. Maybe nothing's going to happen. Well, you know what? You just said a key word. Maybe nothing's going to happen. Well, guess what? I'll say this. Maybe something might happen. God forbid. But anyway, you want to stay focused and not distracted by anything. That's whether you're walking, riding your bicycle to school, and either or, walking to school, riding your bicycle to school, even stepping on and off of the school bus. You want to pay attention to where you're going. Make sure you hit the final step before you step off the bus. You might forget that, oh, I have one more step to go, and mess around and twist your ankle. And now they have to take you to the hospital to get checked out by orthopedics or something. So that's why it's so very important. But ladies and gentlemen, we're winding down the first 10 minutes as I'm waiting for some people to call in. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Massena. Massena might be joining us in a few minutes, or my former co-host, Ms. Tamila Wiggins. I'll probably be calling us in a few minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, our topic today, back to school safety. If you have a comment you'd like to offer, please do so after the break by calling 252-756-2008. It would be certainly greatly appreciated. This is 106.9 FM, WBISLP, Awesome Radio, Greenville, North Carolina. Back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show here on Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP, Winterville, Aden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina. This is the Healing Station. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Massena. Today's topic, Back to School 2022. As I'm waiting for people to call in, this is an interactive broadcast today. So I would love to hear from parents, mothers and fathers, even some of our students. But if you're a student and under the age of 18, you have to have the assistance of an adult by law because you're considered a minor. So we want to maintain, you know, uh, a respectful radio station, and we don't want to violate anybody's rights or anything. So if you're under the age of 18, you're considered a minor. So if you call, you have to be in the accompaniment of an adult. But I would love to hear from you to see what you have to offer about going back to school. Parents and adults, well, adults, both mothers and fathers, I should say. And if Coach Vernon Garrison is listening, I know he'll be calling in at some point also. So if anybody have anything they would like to offer, please do so by calling 252-756-2008. We already went over back to school safety involving walking, riding the bus, and things of that nature. We also went over a document that was issued by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Know before you go back to school and what their recommendations is on the COVID-19 aspects of going back to school. I did mention that I think it should go back to, face to face, in person, that relationship with student and teacher. I think that's so very important, and because it's good that they had it virtual, because school should never stop. Education never stops. Learning never stops. Even when you graduate school, you'll still be a scholar because you'll continue to learn. You'll always be learning. There's something to learn every day. So school is very important. I want to know what our parents think about going back to school 2022 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Rather, it's going to be over if we're getting away from it or if it's over. I want to hear from a parent, a mother, father. Please call 252-756-2008. I'll be standing by waiting for your call, ladies and gentlemen. Here is an update, August 13, 2022. A new school year can be exciting, but it can also be scary and stressful. So what are some of the stress factors for parents and the students? This is a kind of lengthy document, so I'm going to try to skip through it and see what they're mentioning off the hand. And this was actually supplied by a crisis center of Tampa Bay, Florida. They mentioned a couple of aspects. Reynolds says it's normal for children to feel a little nervous at the beginning of a new school year and to give it about 2 weeks to get settled. I think that might be true. I know a lot of students probably excited to get back to school and they can't wait. So we have our first caller calling in. Caller, you are live on the air on the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation.
Hey, how are you, Dr. Johnson? How are you?
I'm doing great. Coach Garrison.
Yes, sir. This is Coach Garrison.
All right. Thank you, sir. Because I'll tell you later. But
okay.
I hope you can stay on with me for a while.
I can stay for a while, man. What are you talking about today? Back to school?
Yeah, back to school.
Okay, great. Outstanding. Well, I think that I heard you say something about parents and their children going back to school.
Yeah.
And the fears that go along with that. I think that the reality is parents are worried about the security. That's the top buzzword now today. The parents are worried about the safety and the security of the students going back. And if I could offer any comfort, I would say, I don't think the fears have to be any more than being worried about their safety when they go to the mall or when they go to church or when they go anywhere else.
Right.
So, yeah, that's, I'm not saying it's not a fear or a greater fear, but it's just embarrassing when we have people in our society that feel so strongly about their social beliefs that they want to go to the school systems and shoot at children.
Yeah.
But I think that there are people who are radicalized like that want to go shoot people anywhere. And drugs are attacking us as well. And the young population, let me tell you something I noticed, Glenn. The young population is drinking more alcohol.
That's right. I think that's so true.
So I remember going to school and, I would go in the bathroom and somebody would have something that they took from their home or their parents' house. They would bring a cigarette to school, or they would, I remember when it was smoking allowed in school. Okay?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, you're a little bit older than I am. I think, what you like, 75?
Funny. Funny.
But yeah, there was smoking allowed in school. And outside of this, a long road to lung cancer, it didn't cause any problems in school because they wasn't selling, buying, and trading the drugs like, they do now. But I'm sure they were selling marijuana.
Yeah, because I went to school at the Jersey Shore. I remember the first year I entered high school, I was a freshman, and people were walking around with signs about nickel bags and $10 bags of marijuana at the school, walking around in the school with the signs.
Uh-huh. But believe it or not, Glenn, when I was going to school, we're talking about fears. I think that they had an incident at New Bern High School last week, and I think it was involving some students, and one of the students had a gun. And I'm not sure if there was I'm not sure, I don't think anybody got hurt. I think it may have been some type of disagreement. But believe it or not, when I was going to school, guns was not a problem. I'm in the county. I'm in the country school, Pamlico County, Bayboro, North Carolina. And there were guns in the back seat of a lot of the people's trucks and cars that went to school. And when they left school, guess what they did with the guns? They went hunting just like they were intending to do.
Yeah. But you know what? I was just thinking about It's been a
Yeah.
long time since Columbine, but now we got the situation not too long ago in Univille. Univille, is that pronounced the way you pronounce it? Univille, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't too long ago it's been a little while since we had Columbine, and now we had the Univille and some other incidents in other jurisdictions. But you think all these things might be people trying to copycat and just to continue to have a big thing going on where they can get some kind of recognition?
Well, I think there are people who have mental issues that feel like they are disassociated from society, and when they want to go out with a bang, there's video games, there's all types of social cues that kind of help people do what they want to do. I don't think that it's more than it has been in the past. I just think it's different social disobedience that we're doing based on generations.
Yeah.
I think we're killing each other the same way they have been killed since the beginning of time.
Yeah, Coach, we got 50
Yeah.
seconds before we go to the next break. Then we'll have 30 minutes remaining for today's broadcast if you can stick and stay with me.
Okay then.
Yeah. So we got 40 seconds before we go to the break. We got 30 seconds now if you want to mention anything before we go to the break.
Well, you were on the subject of going back to school. I say the parents need to get those kids focused, get them kids in school, and get them educated. If you have private school options, then we can talk about that too.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're waiting for parents to call in. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn, here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. If you have a question or comment, please call 252-756-2008. Back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen.
We are the station that brings you inspiration for the family and ministry, teaching for practical Christian living. Awesome Radio.
Scan.
We're back. You're listening to The Glenn Johnson Show. You can reach Glenn at glennjohnsonshow@gmail.com.
Well, back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for keeping it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Massena. This is Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM. Joining me via phone is Coach Garrison, and I just want to mention briefly before I give it to him that he brought something up very interesting before we went to the break. Not only public schools concerns, but private school, charter schools, and things of that nature. Coach Garrison.
Yes, sir. What I was saying before the break, I think the parents need to get these kids focused, get them in school, get them educated, get them back to the house, and get them pretty much not necessarily back to the house, but building this generational and family wealth that's supposed to be generated. They got 15, 20 years to build their own family and then invest back into mom and pop along the way. I think that these children, we should have a mindset for these students. I want them. Look, I'm going to do something crazy. As a coach, I want everybody under the sound of my voice, I want their students, if they're not in junior high school yet, I want them trading stock by junior high school. I want them understanding the markets. I want them understanding international markets. I haven't lost faith and confidence in America, but I do have faith and confidence in my people. And those are the ones who are like me. Get it done. Get those kids in school. Go to the PTA meetings, understand the security features that are there. Make sure your student goes in there with their head up, their mind clear, ready to get lessons, ready to get work done, because they need to become dentists, lawyers, doctors, anything that your family needs, your young student needs to become.
And I think what you said about going to the PTA meetings and having an interaction with the staff and the teachers, that would help alleviate the stress levels that's on students. Is that correct?
It is. It is. It lets them know you're engaged. I know we're job dependent. I know that, it's hard to get off of work because you're working 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever, weekly. That's the strategy of society, to make everybody job dependent so that they don't have to, can't function. I think we ought to work from 7 in the morning to like 2 in the afternoon and then get off for about a couple hours. And then if the work needs to be done, you go back after dinner time for a second shift, or another crew works for second. I don't think we should work 8 to 5. That's primary time in our lives, especially with the man and the woman running the household nowadays. If somebody stayed home, that would be different. But setting high standards and educational goals for our students is no exception. If your school is underfunded, you make sure your student has what it needs, and maybe you can share and make sure his friends have what they need. But own the school system. Own it. Don't just, my son was going to private school where you teach them what they're lacking if they go to public school. Public school is only what we make it, and we should invest in public school system. We should vote for politicians who want to fund it. But right now, it seems that it's not being funded very well. That should not cause your student to be lackluster in educational goals. That should be mandatory, that they learn what they can learn and graduate. So, that's I didn't want to bear down on your audience today, Glenn, but that's a real good pet peeve of mine that I want to get parents, get into their ear about.
I appreciate what you're saying today, because as I mentioned on the top of the day's broadcast, today we're making this an interactive broadcast. I want to hear from the parents. I want to hear from teachers if there's available. I want to hear from parents, mothers, and fathers. I also want to hear from students. If you're under the age of 18, you should consult with an adult prior to calling in. But I want to hear from you too. This is an interactive broadcast, because we're going to have 20 minutes remaining after this 5 minutes for today's broadcast. And I want to thank Coach Garrison for joining me today. But for the next 5 minutes, and when we go to break, we'll continue this topic with 20 minutes remaining. That is, Coach, what do you feel about the transitioning back to school or early child education as a result of the pandemic?
Well, I think the pandemic was a failure when it comes to education. Most people couldn't do remote education that well, supervising their children on laptops and computers and things of that nature. I believe that the research is back in. It was a disaster. Students couldn't learn well from remote learning situations. And now, if I'm wrong, please email Glenn Johnson and say Coach Garrison was wrong. It did very well. Students were able to learn. But from my understanding, kids were able to fail their grades for not being able to participate online and have the right computers. See, the parents are working, Dr. Johnson, so they're not necessarily focused education-wise.
Right, because they're busy doing other stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They want some other stuff. So I think, I'm not saying it was a failure because America set out to do remote learning, distant learning, online learning. But there's nothing that replaces the classroom face-to-face with our people. You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I have a document in front of me. I really would like for people to avail themselves to this document. This is a document courtesy of the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and the information that's contained in it on there, information on heading back to school, heading back to the classroom, or early child care, child education can be challenging, especially during a pandemic. But there are things parents and teachers can do to make the transition easier. And that's a Dr. Karen Ramsley from the she's director of the Center of Disease and Control National Center. So they have some valid, very important information from the CDC on transitioning back to school. To get to the CDC website, before I give it back to Coach, it's www.cdc.gov, www.cdc.gov. Coach Garrison, 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. That was great, man. Great information. And back to the parents and the mindset. Excuse me, for the public school system. I think that we have a sense, a false sense of security sometimes that the education that the students learn is just going to translate right into life, and that's not true. That's not true. It's not going to translate into them taking care of you. I used to tell my son, "Hey, look, I changed your diapers when you were young. So when you get older, you either have to learn, you have to learn how to change my diaper one day, or you're gonna have to be able to pay somebody to do it. But you're gonna take care of me."
That's right, though.
When you get older, I'm gonna go in your refrigerator, just like you went in my refrigerator. Got whatever you want to eat when you came home. That's just a small symbolical gesture that I use for humor, but I meant every bit of it. He better succeed, and he is. I'm quite proud of him. So I think that parents, we lost a lot into desegregation when we felt like we were included in society and everybody was going to come up together.
Yeah, we have about 45 seconds before we go to the next break.
But
then we'll be back with our final 20 minutes. But Coach, when we get back from the break, I want to ask you a question that I just thought about, and that is public school versus private and charter school, and remaining in the district under the Board of Education. So I'll get you to respond on that because we'll have 20 minutes remaining to get into that. And if they are legally responsible for adhering to the same guidelines as a public school. So we'll get to that when we get back from the break. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, WBIS LP, Awesome Radio. We'll be back in a moment after this brief sponsorship break. Back in a moment.
Keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show.
Time This is Glenn Coward. You're listening to Awesome Radio 106.9.
Well, back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for keeping it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show. This is Motivations with Glenn and Massena Lewis. You are at Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, WBISLP. I'm going to go back over to Coach Garrigan because we've narrowed it down to our final 20 minutes of the broadcast. And I had a question for him, and that was on public school versus private charter schools. Are they still to maintain compliance with the Board of Education for the district that they might be in, although they're public or private or charter? Coach?
Yes, sir. They definitely have to maintain the educational standards set by North Carolina. Even students that take online education courses to get GEDs or diplomas, they still have to graduate according to the state educational standards or Board of Educational standards. They still have to do that. And, you know, probably the most drastic difference right on face value between public and private is the funding sources, meaning if they're getting government funding. I know charter schools have that opportunity in the state of North Carolina to get funded by the government. And that's all about the tools that the students have to learn with, the books, the computers, the technology nowadays. Also in the private school system, it can, the location is, I think Pitt County might be, you can attend any school from any particular area now. It used to be geographically set, but private schools can be expensive. Students may have to stay on campus longer. Religious beliefs play a major role. So whether, you can talk about religion, whether you can, like in Florida, they're going back to school this year under a Governor DeSantis type rule. There's no such thing as being the gender. I'll say this without trying to spit facts. The gender role in the school system now is got a lot to do with the curriculum. Hey, that's a safe way to say it. So whether you can talk about being gay or straight or is involved in the classroom, there are a lot of things going on in the Florida school system. Thus, here in North Carolina, I wonder, do they pray in class? Do some still say the Pledge of Allegiance? Do some have silent moments of silence in class? If you want to, as a teacher, that doesn't mean you are praying. I know that there's diversity in the student population, so that means religious people from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
But that private school, the charter school, the last thing I'm going to say about the difference is, in a charter school, I was just on a board of directors for a charter school, the establishment of one. They have a chance to choose their curriculum, their paths. There's a few of them, and I don't want to try to quote them, but they have a chance to teach set a path, an overtone for the whole educational 1 through 12 curriculum, where it's more technical, where there's more emotional, where it's more educational plight towards legal field, medical field, where it's geared towards yielding artists, yielding creativity. I just made up a word, man. Creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity. What type of student the school system wants to yield can be chosen from the very beginning.
Yeah, I know. And you had a valid point because, see, I certainly appreciate you giving your commentary on the public schools and the private and charter schools still have to adhere to the same guidelines as public schools in whatever district they're in. So that was pretty good information.
Yeah. The testing and things of that nature, they might be different. There might be, there's a big debate on whether high standards on whether teachers got enough time to actually teach the children skill sets that will yield great test results at the end of the year. But what a lot of teachers wind up doing is teaching the test, if you will, in a lot of situations, because they got a huge amount of information that they have to try to bring this kid up to standard from grade to grade, and to have them pass end of grade testing. I think they call that EOGs, and a whole lot of other testing before they get to sixth grade, in which then they have to choose a plight for college. If they're on a college route, or they're on a route to become a community college route to work a job, a more technical, hands-on approach to life.
Yeah, and with 4 minutes remaining for this particular segment, before we go to the break and go to our final segment, that leads me into what our final segment is going to be, our final 10 minutes. That is, while a lot of schools have been open for in-person classroom, there also have been a lot of schools that have been virtual. So what that means is some of these students returning back to school will be in person for the first time in over a year. How will that affect them? You know, we'll touch on that at the final 10 minutes. But 3 minutes remaining, I'm going to go back to Coach Garrison.
Well, I will say that. I'll save my response to that for after the break. But private schools are definitely better than government schools, obviously because of the funding. But that reflects on the family, how the family feels about education. Most young black kids go to school with a vocabulary about around 900 words or so, depending on what study you look at. Most white students go to school. I'm trying not to play the race card when it's not necessary, okay? Because I'm not racist. We all might be a little prejudiced, but I don't make decisions based on people's color. Most white students go to school with a vocabulary of about 1,500 words.
Yeah.
So we can't say that the school system is responsible for the outcomes all the time. What we talk about at home, do we talk business? Do we just talk about entertainment? Do we just talk about boxing, sports, cookouts, the job that we work, or do we talk about promotion? Do we talk about education? Do we talk about you trying to become a dentist, or do we talk about the educational plight? So going to a private school, they kind of launch you, they evaluate you, they probably invest a whole lot more time. The tutoring system is probably introduced to you very early. Because once parents learn, if people got money, once they find out their child got a learning disability, man, they jump right on that. And they got tutors right there to compensate for whatever deficiency their child has. Well, growing up with me, they put me in a special education class. That was my thought, because I didn't know why I was at school, and they didn't know why I was at school.
Yeah.
But I did good at Head Start, but I messed up first grade. But anyways, I was in what they call then the class with retarded people, mental retarded. And they don't use that word anymore. But you see what they did to me? I didn't get no tutors, but there wasn't nothing wrong with me. I just think like I think. And I just was like, okay, my learning curve is different than the rest of these students.
Don't tell me you got left back in kindergarten.
I got left back in the first grade off jump. They let me skip kindergarten because my creativity skills were pretty high. So I guess I could glue, cut, draw, So I guess they figured, hey, put this guy in the first grade. When they put me in the first grade, boy, they might well put me in the middle of a jungle with a whole lot of animals around me.
Yeah, because you can't get left back in kindergarten. All you do is take naps and eat graham crackers. How can you get left back from eating graham crackers and taking naps? Anyway, we have 40 seconds to go for this particular segment. Then we'll wrap it up with our final 10 minutes. But like I said, me and Coach Garrison would like to offer comments on many schools have been in person, but a lot of schools have been virtual due to the pandemic. So a lot of students will be going back into an environment where they're going to be directly in front of somebody for the first time in over a year. We'll touch bases on that after this brief sponsorship break. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, The Glenn Johnson Show. We'll be back in a moment after this very brief break. Back in a moment.
Somebody is sick.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM WBISLP. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn. And we're discussing Back to School 2022. Joining me is Coach Vernon Garrison, Coach Garrison. And
Hey,
we're going to finish in the day's broadcast with going back to school. What does that mean or entail for a lot of students after being virtual for almost a year now, where some schools have been in person, a lot of schools have been virtual for over a year. So how will that affect the children that have been virtual going back face to face this year, Coach?
well, a lot of students started going back to school in small numbers. So I take my hat off to the navigation that the CDC had to do to educate parents on how to get kindergartens to put on masks and social distancing. I know it just wasn't a pretty sight when they started, this last school, educational season. And now we're about to head into the new one, but or another one, if you will. I'll say this: it's hard for me to keep up because I don't have a child in school. But I will say this: here's what happened during the pandemic to students. It was a great depression among students. Students were missing each other. Can you imagine going on a playground and going to school for lunch to get those brownies, to get that plate of spaghetti that you complained about?
Yeah.
Can you imagine not being able to get that? So diet and nutrition was a big issue during the pandemic in school. Depression. I just call it so your child was depressed. You don't believe in depression. Well, your child has separation anxiety then. Okay, you wanted to get separated because you were having anxiety because your child was at the house every day, all day, worrying the mess out of you about how to get into the system to get their homework done. So the parent, it was a ripple effect. The major thing, even with college students, depression was the common denominator. And now going back to school, I cannot say, because I haven't been walking the hallways of the public school system, but I can say I believe they are glad to be back, to see their friends, to be amongst their teachers. There ain't nothing like a teacher's love, man. You probably ain't never fell in love with your teacher before, have you?
I have been in love with some of my teachers.
Oh my goodness!
Because they have been in love with me. But
oh really?
Yeah, but I want to say something because you mentioned something very important.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get to the document of this, but we were mentioning the food program. So there is a nutrition factor with schools, and there's an updated document on the free lunch program for schools. But you have to check that out in your area because we're not going to have time to get to that document today. Plus, that contains information that could change overnight. Top around for you have the updated community information if you would contact your school board in particular. Coach?
Well, I would say this now. If you are concerned, I want to look at what your school board is teaching, what curriculum what educational model they are using for your students from grades 0 all the way up to graduation. And you want to get back into that plan, and you want to share your expectations, because you're paying for this education. It might seem like it's a big babysitting agency or someplace for them to go. Stop it. This is our life. This is our community, and that's the training ground. That's like the boot camp, for soldiers, that you're going to have to protect your family, to protect your assets, to protect your property, to carry on your legacy. It's more than just a school system. Get involved, get involved, get involved, get involved in your students' education. Then you will know. Then you will know, and I'm guarantee you there's something in there that you would take issue with.
That's right. Because, that's right. Because like you said earlier, you don't have any school-age children in school. But I thought about that too. I do have grandchildren that's school age. They're in school. And thankfully, thanks to the greatness of God, they're doing fantastic. So I think this is why. And I think personally, our students should be face-to-face with their teachers for that personal relearning relationship. Coach, 4 minutes remaining.
I think that your student should take you to school when they say take a parent to school day. So I think that they should take you to school, man, and let you sit there and meet the teacher and enjoy the curriculum and eat lunch with them. I think you will have a great time going there to be with your granddaughter. I would say any parent out there, it is a severe violation that you don't go out and be a part of your child's education. I know they think they know everything. They act like they know everything, but all of that, take it from someone who raised a child during the millennials. Those millennial students feel like they could Google everything, use their cell phones for everything.
And
they got out. And guess what? Go ahead.
Yeah, guess what? Like you said, you think I should go there? Practically all the teachers in this area basically know me already from my grandchildren. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yes,
we have 3 minutes remaining for today's broadcast.
If your child knows you and knows your expectation for your child or your student, however you want to address them, they might teach them better. They might look at them when it's time when they're in trouble and say, I know your mama, I know your daddy expect better than that of you. That might be the determining factor whether them letting your students sit in the class with their head down the whole time, sit in the class with their cell phone the whole time. That's the investment that you have to make, because we don't have private schools. You can't teach them because you got to go to work. We can't homeschool because we job dependent. We're going to have to change that, John. We ain't doing the same thing we just did this last 100 years. Before our leaders our students going to understand capitalism.
WBISLP
106.9.